So today I'm going to take some time to talk about the most stupid statement I've ever made in my life. I'm going to start out talking about the most stupid statement I've ever made in my life, but then this is going to lead me down a path of some level of vulnerability with you, my listeners, because I believe it's very important for some of you to hear some of the things I'm going to say right now. Um, Number one, to make you know that I'm just as human as you are. And so a lot of times in my podcast, I give advice, but then a lot of the advice is stuff I need myself. So I have a lot of bloopers in my life. I'm telling you, I have a lot of bloopers in my life. A lot of things that I advise about are things that I've seriously dropped the ball on to in my own life. And so as I make this podcast, I don't want you to feel um, like I'm condescending to anyone. No, a lot of times I believe this podcast is a spiritual medium through which I get clarity and insight myself. And it's something they say right now online. It's say this is a safe space. I want to believe that this podcast is a safe space. I use it as a safe space for myself too. And today I'm going to be telling you about some experiences in my life that I probably haven't shared with anyone before. But then I really think someone needs to listen in on this, and it's going to take us through this path of analyzing the need for gratitude. Because I realize a lot of us, we're not very grateful for our lives. We believe we haven't been blessed enough because we've come to constrain blessings to material things, houses, car, money, um, clothes, you understand, prestige. Yeah, those things can be part of blessings, but there are a lot of ways in which we could be blessed that we fail to thank God for. And one way in which we could be blessed is through the relationships we have in our lives. I don't see a lot of people or too many people that are grateful for the relationships they have. Grateful for the relationships that God has given you the opportunity to have. And today I'm going to be talking about some of the relationships that I've had. I see that there are two main types of relationships that we have in our lives. There are close relationships and there are deep relationships. They're not always the same. Sometimes you are blessed enough to have a close relationship that is a deep relationship. Like the relationship I have with my wife is close and very deep. You see, my wife is somebody with whom I've shared a lot of experiences with, and we've been through quite a lot together. She has seen me in my ugliest. My wife has seen me at my ugliest, both literally and figuratively. No, my wife have done some things that I'm totally embarrassed to even say. I've acted in particular ways that I'm totally embarrassed to say, talk about, to even remember them. I kind of shudder thinking about them. But then, she has been very accommodating and very patient with me and very loving to me. She has seen me at my most vulnerable. Not too many people have seen me cry, but my wife has seen me cry on a number of occasions. And I'm not talking about just shedding a tear. I'm talking about crying like a child. That kind of crying that you have to catch your breath. You're like, you can't talk anymore. She has seen me cry she has seen me cry. You understand? So it's a very close and deep relationship, and I'm very grateful for it. But you're not going to have too many relationships like that. A lot of you might not have more than one, two very close and deep relationships, and that's fine. That's fine. That's a very hard zone, close and deep. Some of you have close relationships by virtue of the fact that they're close friends, where you guys enjoy each other's company. They understand you, but you really haven't shared any deep experiences together. But they're close friends. You love hanging out with them. They are good friends. Those are the people we we remember a lot. So when we talk about our top 3 friends, we'll mention those people because we just like them and they like us back. You understand? But when you talk about deep experiences, you really haven't been through fire together. And then you have the category of people that you've been through fire with them, or they've seen you go through fire. They've seen you at your most vulnerable. Some of them saved your life while you were going through fire. They might not be particularly close to you, you understand? But you share that very deep moment together. These are the people I want to ask you today to try to remember. Try to remember them. If you have to write their names down somewhere and go back to your journal each time and just say, oh, I remember this person and I just want to reach out to this person with a phone call, just to ask how they are doing, just to send them a gift. Please don't forget them. You understand? Those people that might be in the zone of deep, but not particularly close. They're very important. Very important. And so I'll go back to one of the most stupid statements I've ever made in my entire life. And how someone saved me. I remember when I was in university, and there was this particular night, we were really talking in the hostel. I think we were about 5 of us, and we got into this really talking about ambition and money, and it was such an interesting conversation, and there was this atmosphere of excitement in the air. And there's something I wrote on Twitter, I think about a year ago. And as I narrate this experience, I would like to go back to that thing I wrote on Twitter. I want to read it out to you right now. It says, beware of people at the height of hunger. They are capable of unimaginable desperation. Beware of people at the height of anger. They are capable of irreparable harm. Beware of people at the height of excitement. They are capable of unexplainable stupidity. And that night, I was at the height of excitement. And you see, while we're having this conversation, I said, oh, money is so important. It's so good to get money. I want to get so much money. I don't want anything to come in between me and getting this money. In fact, I can kill family for money. I don't know when that statement came out of my mouth, but I just said it. And the other guys in the room were laughing. And there was this guy in the room. And I would say we weren't closest of friends, but we were friendly. But he stopped what he was doing. And he told me, I can't remember whether he won't shut me up. I can't remember. But you see, I was like intoxicated with excitement. I don't know, I don't know where it came from, but the atmosphere was thick with excitement. And that's why sometimes, just being in a place where people are overexcited can be a very dangerous place to be. And I made this statement, said, I can kill family for money. And the guy said, don't ever say that again. He said, you will not do that. I rebuked that statement. I said, and he told me, he said, I rebuke that statement in Jesus' name. You will never do that. And I calmed down and I came to my senses. And I said, what did I just say? What made me say that? What made me say that? At that time, I wasn't married, but I had an incredible family. Incredible. Been nothing but kind and generous and warm to me. Why would that come to my mind? And I made this confession and put it in the universe. And it was going out there into the future to fulfill. And this guy was aware of that and cut it short. You understand? He cut it short. He killed that spirit immediately before it could leave that room. And told me, I rebuke it in Jesus' name. He said it, I rebuke that spirit in Jesus' name. That will never happen to you. He didn't know my family. He didn't know my family. Why would he care? He wasn't particularly my closest friend then. Why? should he care? Kill your family, that's your business. You understand? And I can remember looking around the room then, and everybody was just laughing, and nobody stopped it. But he stopped it, and it was so serious. And I had to say a prayer then in my heart because it brought me down to earth. I believe he saved my life. I really believe that. And every time I think about it, I'm like, wow, thank God for that guy. Thank God for that guy. And I spoke to him this morning, and that's why I decided to do this podcast. This experience happened over 20 years ago. But I spoke to him this morning just to wish him well. And I told him I remember that experience. I've never told him that before, but I told him 20 years after, I said, I remember what you did for me. And thank you for doing that. You see, somebody listening in right now has someone in their life that has saved you from an action. They have saved you from your reckless words. They have told you to shut up. They had given you a slap when you needed it. They screamed at you to snap you out of a particular stupid action, whether you were in a state of anger, hunger, or excitement. But they saved you. Don't forget them. You understand? Don't forget them. You might not be close, and nobody's saying that you should make them your best friend, but don't forget them. Pray for them. Reach out to them. Let them know you remember them. I'll never forget that experience. Unarguably, one of the worst things I've ever said. But I'm glad that guy was there. I'm glad. You understand? Because I was blessed with a beautiful family. I am blessed with a beautiful family. But the devil wants to destroy that. Remember the people in your life that were there for you, that have been there for you. People that have been there for you. When I think back on my life, I realize how blessed I am. Sometimes I'm financially low, but then I think I'm blessed. I'm blessed with incredible relationships, incredible siblings, incredible parents, incredible spouse, incredible children. All have saved my life one way or the other, one point or the other. I have amazing siblings. You see, I grew up the only male child. And I always thought that was a disadvantage. I always complained, I want a brother, I need a brother, I want a brother. And I used to wallow in this self-pity. I'm the only guy, nobody understands me. I didn't understand the gift of being surrounded with the female gender. Oh, such a wonderful gift. Such a wonderful gift. I see a lot of guys who have just female children. The very foolish ones don't know how blessed they are. How incredibly blessed you are. If you have a female child, wow. A female child is an incredible thing to have. I have a female child, and I know how blessed I am. I am to have a female child. It's like having another wife. You understand? A smaller wife at home. It's incredible. It's incredible. I'm so blessed to have my two sisters because they both saved my life, different points or the other. Some of them saved my life in a moment, and some of them saved my life in a particular season. I'll start with my younger sister. My younger sister is just 2 years younger than I am, and I was telling her like last month that I wouldn't have had a childhood without her. I wouldn't have had a childhood without her. Very easily wouldn't have had a childhood. I would have been very sad as a child. She kept me grounded. Because I was very artistic. I love to draw. I've said it a lot on my podcast. I drew a lot as a child. I see my son draw a lot now. He reminds me of myself. I drew a lot, made comics and drawn everything. I could draw. Had good imagination, and I could retain what I'd seen, and I could reproduce it on paper. And you see, nobody in my house was an artist. Nobody else was artistic. Even my younger sister. But then she was one of my biggest supporters, even at that very young age, 2 years younger than me. And she was one of the first people in the house that always just validated me drawing. Young girl. She couldn't have been more than 5. You understand? But she always used to say, Tola, you're such a good artist. You're so good. And she would sit down with me for hours drawing. But her drawings weren't good. She couldn't draw. You understand? She couldn't draw. Her drawing skills were like, were not were well below average. They were like stick figures. But I could draw, but she drew beside me for hours. And she would look at my drawings. And even at that age, was able to validate me and just say, your drawings are just really, really good. And you could see that she was inspired by it. But she kept me drawing. Even when other people did not understand what drawing. Because I grew up in the 80s. To be able to draw wasn't something you really celebrated because drawing was a hobby then. Nobody ever wished their children would grow up and be artists. The arts were not really celebrated in the 80s. No, it wasn't. Whether you know how to draw, act, sing, dance, all those things, no. Those things were looked down upon because school were like, those were dead end hobbies. So sciences, if you're good at maths, good at some, at maths or sciences, you were seen as someone that had a promising future. If you could draw, you had to put that aside and look for a science that you could make a career. So I was always kind of ashamed of my drawing because, I didn't feel like it was going to have any huge positive impact on my future. But my sister, she practically saved my life. She was there. We drew together for hours, even though she couldn't draw. And she helped me to develop that passion and that practice to continue to draw. And that's how I got into graphic design and I got into branding. And, that has really, really formed a huge part of my life right now. But she was there, those early formative years. She saved my life. She gave me a childhood that was worth having. Then I have my older sister who, practically who saved my life, literally saved my life. And I remember this experience I had where we had gone out for a picnic at church, and this is one of those excitement period, height of excitement. Please, someone must always be not so excited in a very excited place. There must always be somebody who takes the burden of not losing their minds in a place where everybody's excited. You understand? Must be somebody who seems like if they are the party poopers. We need those people. Well, like, we always say, oh, get up and dance now. Everybody's dancing. Everybody can have fun. Let that person be. You understand? Let that person be someone that is observing. So we had this picnic, this beginning of the year or end of the year. I can't remember. It was a church picnic and full of teenagers. And I remember, growing up, I had this serious phobia for water, hydrophobia, serious one. Serious. So whether it was a pool or the beach was even terrible. Every time we going to the beach, I felt sad. You understand? There was this anxiety that came over me, serious anxiety. I don't know where it stemmed from, but I can remember having this phobia for water. It has reduced with time right now. But then going to the beach, I hated going to the beach. But then living in Lagos, the beach was somewhere where we went to, you understand, early 80s, late 80s, early 90s. It was where we went to have fun. And but I hated going there. I couldn't wait to go home. I know with the beach, as time goes on, the tide gets higher. So the water keeps coming closer into the shore. And people would go, but I would always stay very far away under the tent. And we had this picnic and everybody was going to put their feet in the water and everybody was wet, but I was dry. I was very dry. I didn't go near that water. And there was this group of boys that were looking, and it was getting late. It was about 5:36 and the tide was high. And this group of boys, intoxicated with excitement, were looking for anyone that came for that picnic that was dry. And they said it was a crime to be dry while everyone was wet. So they went around looking for people and throwing them into the sea. And I tried to hide from these guys, but they saw me and they came after me and they grabbed me. About six of them grabbed me, much taller than I was, bigger than I was. I was a frail looking kid when I was growing up. I was skinny, and so they grabbed me easily and were taking me to the ocean. And I remember them laughing, and I was screaming, and my heart was beating. I would begin to like hyperventilate. I couldn't even get the words out, and I saw them inching closer and closer to the water, and they were about to swing me. And from the corner of my eye, I saw my older sister, who is a year older than I am, and she was running towards me. And every other person was so excited. They didn't even see what was going on. But my sister had her eyes on me and she ran towards me. And I saw her run so fast. And then she grabbed one of them. Now, my sister is a year older than me, so she wasn't much bigger. She was a teenager too. She couldn't have been more than 14 or so. She grabbed one of these guys, grabbed him by the waist, and he couldn't move. She grabbed him so tight, and the other five guys were trying to move, but she grabbed this guy, and this guy couldn't go anywhere. And because she grabbed him and kind of tackled him to the ground, he had to let go of me. They couldn't take me any further. I said, "Don't throw my brother in the sea. Don't throw him in that water. You are not going to throw my brother in that water." She held on to him, and this guy tried pushing her away, but he couldn't. And he just had to let go. They let go. I said, let's let him go. They made fun of me, and then she picked me up and asked if I was okay. I'll never forget that day. Never. My sister was looking out for me. She was my older sister, a year older than me, but much more responsible than I was. My parents weren't there, but she still had the presence of mind to look out for her younger siblings. She was the mother. I don't know too many older brothers that would have been like that. They would have been in their own height. The older brother might even be the one carrying you in there with the other five guys. But my sister came and she saved me. You see, if you're here, you have only girl children, man, you're blessed. You're blessed. They're a blessing. They're a blessing. They're mothers. They're a blessing. You are blessed. You're blessed. I'm so happy I grew up with two incredible sisters. They took care of me so much. They did. They looked out for me so much. Emotionally, physically, probably made me into the man I am today. They formed me into a gentleman. Incredibly great sisters. We need to take time out to really consider the people that see us and allow us to be ourselves, that look out for us when we are most vulnerable, when we do stupid things, make stupid decisions. We must not forget them. Don't forget them easily. Do not. People who see you in your time of vulnerability, do not forget them. They are a blessing. They are a blessing. And you don't need to be they don't need to be your sister or your closest friend or your best friend. As I said, some of them are just, it's a moment. But don't forget that moment. Don't let the moment pass with them. So the moment might be in the past, but don't let them be in the past. Try to stay in contact with them. You understand? You might not call them very often, but call them from time to time to let them know that you remember them. You see, growing up for me as a young child, you see, because I was very artistic, I didn't do very well in school, and that's putting it mildly. You understand? That's putting it mildly. I didn't do well in school. Primary school was hell for me. Hardly passed exams. I was the one that was, trying to check out what the other person was doing during exams. So they had to separate me extra, isolate me, because man, copying was the order of the day. I didn't understand anything I was reading. You understand? So they always used to relocate me during exams because they knew this guy will copy the next person. You understand? I didn't care who it was because I didn't know the answer. At least you know some answer. I don't care whether you're wrong or right. You understand? I'm going to copy. And so they always used to isolate me because school was like a nightmare. Primary school was like a nightmare. Nobody understood me. I was very visual. I learned through play, and there was hardly any play in school. Um, so whenever we came home with results, my sisters always used to do much better. But then I would see the disappointment in my parents' face, in their faces, about how terrible my grades were, and that made me feel like I was failing them. So I always felt like, oh, Mentola, man, you're just doing nothing but making these people unhappy. So during holidays when we would go out, I used to feel like we were, our parents were giving my parents were giving my sisters a treat, but they just had to take me along. So I felt unworthy of a lot of the things they gave me. I'm like, I'm not making you happy in school, so why are you buying stuff for me? Not knowing that it was actually love, you understand? But I didn't understand that they were putting my grades aside, and just caring for me as a son. But I thought my grades were everything. And that's why if you're parenting today, you know, allow your children to understand that their academics one thing, but your love for them is another thing, and that nothing will touch that. Because I thought I was my grades. So my teachers were disappointed. I thought my parents were disappointed. I thought everybody saw me as a failure. So all I had was this ability to draw, and that's why I was so grateful to my um younger sister for, you know, for helping me with that. But there was this holiday period where I dropped the ball again in school, and I was so sad. And you see, children do get depressed. I would have you know that children get depressed. If you have a child around you, it might be your child, it might be a niece or stuff, and they tell you they are sad. Please do not imagine that children do not know what sadness or depression is. Do not think so. They do. Children do get depressed, and the devil does play on their mind. I remember I was really young, still in primary school, and I'd done really bad, and I was sad. I was sad, and nobody saw this sadness. Nobody really saw it. But I remember going on this holiday, and we went to my uncle's place in Ife, and then Ife was such a beautiful place. You understand? Beautiful campus. Obafemi Awolowo University, where I ended up going to school. But then it was such a beautiful campus that people would go there to holiday. And I remember going there, such a beautiful, serene environment. My first time seeing a ladybird, so serene. And we went there to spend the holiday, and everybody was so happy, and they were talking about results and stuff. And I said, okay, I didn't do too well, almost came last, and everybody was advising me, oh, do well, you need to improve. But every other person had done well, and I thought, you don't deserve to be here. And I took that statement to so far that I thought to myself, you actually don't deserve to be here at all. You understand? You don't deserve to be here, to be alive. And I remember, telling my cousin, okay, you know what, let's just end it. Let's end our lives. And somebody, who also came as an angel then heard us do that and was able to squash that. But I went back home, and that thought still came to my mind, like, end it all. And I was a young boy. You understand? I was a young boy. I hadn't entered my teens. I don't think I was even 10 years old yet. But then here I was entertaining the thought of unaliving myself. But that period, a cousin who was much older than me, in fact, I call her my auntie, came to stay with us in Lagos then. She had come from Ibadan to stay with us. And for some reason, when she saw me, she saw nothing but good in me. Absolutely nothing but good. And at the point, I thought, oh man, I think she's just flattering me. But every single day, she would talk about how handsome I looked, how talented I was, and she was obviously had a preference for me. You understand? And she always used to just pour in praise, always pour in praise, always, everything. And I used to think to myself, doesn't this lady see all these other terrible things? You understand about how unintelligent I am and stuff like that? But she never, ever, ever, ever talked about those things. She talked about everything I did right, how incredible I was. And she said every day. And an incredible thing started to happen. I started to believe it. I started to believe it. And my confidence started to grow. She was a young woman. I think if she was, she must have been in her late teens or, early adulthood, but she was much older. But she was my cousin. She was the first daughter of my dad's older sister. So if you can do that permutation, then, well, yeah, so she was much older, you understand? And she came to stay with us, but she was sent, I really believe she was sent to me as an angel. And she poured out so much validation into my life. And all of a sudden, here I was, someone with low self esteem. I used to feel very good looking, very confident. I started paying attention to how I dressed. And, I was more confident in approaching people. And, I started feeling good about my life as a child. Until today, I still carry that confidence. Still carry that confidence. And sometimes my wife tells me, why are you like that? And I tell her, it's because of my auntie. I wasn't born that way. But then she said it so much, I started to see the world that way. And I still take out time to call her and talk to her from time to time. But I always want her to know that I know, I remember. And she's still that way with me right now. Every time I write and I put it on WhatsApp, she's always validating this. Just makes so much sense to me. And she calls me, oh, you're a sage. You're such a sage. And, she doesn't have to. She has her own life, has her own challenges, but she takes out time to pour into me. Someone has somebody like that in their life. You are blessed. Thank God for that blessing. Take some time to pray for that person. Reach out to that person. You are blessed. Some of you tell God you are not blessed. God has not been good to you, but He has. He has put people in your life that are a blessing. Blessing. They've been a blessing to you. Don't forget them. Sometimes some of us get to the place where we are successful and then we forget people who were with us when we were at our lowest. People who have kept ugly secrets. When I say ugly, I don't mean terrible things you've done, but vulnerable situations that they've seen you in. That they'll say, I've seen you in the worst situation. You that you're carrying yourself right now like you're the most beautiful person. You're the most celebrated person. I've seen you when nobody would come near you. And that takes me to the last experience I'll be sharing with you today. When I graduated from university and I went for NYSC, I fell ill a week to our passing out from camp. I felt ill. And my NYSC camp was really an incredible experience. I enjoyed it, you understand? I enjoyed it. But then a week to our passing out from the camp, I had this cough. It started out as a cough. And I remember I would cough up this really, really yellow phlegm. And, we used to go out very early in the morning to march and to on for parade. And it was a very dusty environment. And, I didn't have the presence of mind then to at least take an handkerchief or a face mask, to use a face mask. But then, I saw people doing it, but I thought, oh, why are these people being so fussy? So I went out for the first few weeks every morning inhaling this dust. So obviously this dust had gone way into my body and I was coughing and I could see the color of the cough was thick brown. Whenever I spat up anything, whenever I blew my nose, then I fell ill. And then I left and I went home. And immediately I got home, my health just declined. and I had this sickness. I couldn't eat, and it was so bad. I was immobile for a very long time, and it was the first time I had a nurse come around. I had a personal nurse that would come around and escort me to the bathroom and stuff. And at the point, she had to be taking my bath for me because I couldn't do any of those things. I remember at first I didn't want her to take my bath for me, so I said, "No, don't go to the bathroom with me. I can handle this myself." I remember going to the bathroom and trying to stand up. I sat down in the toilet and trying to stand up, and I fainted. And they had to, carry me and revive me. And from that day, she said, "Oh, you're going to the bathroom. I'm taking your bath for you, whether you like it or not." I'm a nurse and stuff. Incredible nurse, incredible nurse. She was such an amazing person. Took care of me. But the sickness did not go away. It didn't go away, so it just got worse. And at a point, I had to be admitted to the hospital. So I was on admission, and at this point, I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't get up. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't do anything. Just lying down on the bed, totally out of it. And I remember this day where I was on the bed, and I had this uncle. Was a young uncle, my dad's cousin, first cousin, and he sat down beside me on the bed, and I was so uncomfortable because I realized I had to go to the toilet. You understand? I had to go to the toilet for number two. You understand? Not number one, number two. But I know I couldn't stand up. I couldn't stand up to save my life. So I was having this dilemma. I was like, what am I going to do? I can't stand up. You understand? So I told my uncle, and he said, "Okay, so what do we do?" He went to the nurse, and the nurses gave him a bedpan and told him to fit it under me, and so I should go in that. So you see, when people talk about being ill and not being able to do anything, even when they had to put on diapers for them, I can totally relate. A lot of us don't understand the level of vulnerability the human being gets to when you are incapacitated, totally immobile. So he brought his bedpan and he kind of shimmied it under me and said I should go. That was very hard. You understand? I had to go lying down horizontally. Never done that before. And so sometimes we don't appreciate what it means to be able to sit down on the toilet. But I had to. I had to. There was no other option. But that wasn't the difficult part. It was after I had gone. Now I had this man, my uncle, right there. He wasn't like one of my top uncles, not one of those uncles that you go and visit them, had a big house. He was staying with us. He didn't have a house, didn't have a job. That's how he had the time to sit down with me there in the hospital while everybody else went to their work. And he had to take that thing from under me. And then came the part where he had to clean me up. That's the most humbling thing I've ever had to go through in my entire life. There's nothing more humbling. Nothing more humbling in this world. I don't think there is. Than you not being able to clean up after yourself when you're done going to the toilet. Nothing in this world more humbling than having another human being clean you up. As an adult. And he did that. And I say, at that point, he wasn't my closest uncle. He wasn't. And I was grown, I was in my 20s. I was not a baby. You understand? It wasn't anything cute. You understand? It wasn't cute. Adult. He was not my mother. He was not my brother. He was a young man too. And I remember him taking the wad of toilet roll and wiping me up. It's a blessing to have those kind of people around you. It's a blessing. And I remember him asking me, am I okay? I should just tell him anytime I want to go. And I said, this guy is willing to go through this thing again. I'm not sure if I would have done the same if the tables were turned. Here was a young man nurturing me. He was nurturing towards me. I can understand if it were a woman, for a nurse, I can remember, but it was a man. He had not even had the experience of doing this for his own kids because he wasn't married at that point. This was a young man. And I remember thinking, after getting over that embarrassment, I didn't even spend too much time in embarrassment. I was just humbled. And I realized how blessed I was to have family like that. That's why I said that statement I made was probably the most stupid statement I've ever made in my life. And that's why I thank that my friend for counseling it for me. Because I've been so blessed. Somebody here needs to listen to this and realize how blessed they are. Stop thinking about the fact that, oh, nobody in my family is a millionaire. Nobody in my family has connections. Nobody in my family. You think about how disadvantaged you are because of finances. Nobody in my family has a big house where we can go and spend time and, have a great time. A house with a pool. But then is someone in your family loving? Is there somebody in your family that is willing to be there when you are your most vulnerable? To do some of the most ridiculous things, some of the lowest things, which are probably the highest human things. Is there somebody in your family willing to do that? You are so blessed. Is there somebody in your family who is willing to validate that skill that you have, tell you how good you are, even though you never made a single naira from it? Single naira, single dollar, you not earn a cent from it. But they're there encouraging you. Is there someone there in your family? Is there someone there in your family that at your time of wanting to give up, I say, I'm tired. They walked into that room and encouraged you back to life again? A lot of us are more blessed than we think. A lot of us should be more grateful than we are. I want you to take out time to think about those people in your life that have been there, that are angels. Journal it. Reach out to them. Give them a call. Share something with them. Celebrate them. That is gratitude. Pray for them. That is gratitude. That is what it means to be alive, to be aware of your blessings, and to be grateful for them. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and you've been listening to my podcast, ProUp Masterclass.